Hello to you. It's Relationships at Work you find yourself listening to, a leadership podcast helping you build workplace connection, improve culture, and avoid blind spots. I'm your host, Russel Lolacher, communications leadership expert, couple of decades of experience in both those areas, and a whole heap of curiosity, just like you, on how we can make the workplace a better place. Welcome to Friday, the time for our solo mini episodes. This is where we provide mindset shifts, reminders, a little something to help you for your week ahead. This week, we're focusing on communications is continuing to be a theme over these last couple of weeks, and this one's not going to be any different, but what we're focusing on really is corporate speak and how corporate speak kills workplace humanity. Have you ever had an experience that became far more profound in hindsight than it felt in the moment? I remember sitting in the hallway of a conference in a big, comfy chair. Right beside me, in an identical chair, was a well-known speaker in that industry. We were both clicking away on our computers, buried in the work of the day, when let's call her a fan, walked up to talk to him. Him, not me. I'm not that big of a deal. You could tell she was excited. This was her chance to make this big connection, to get a moment with him. He was polite. He was approachable. And after a few introductions, he asked a question that I thought was pretty reasonable. What do you do? She launched into the most buzzword-heavy, corporate speak-laden response you could possibly imagine. Covering title, responsibility, lots of impressive-sounding but ultimately really vague phrases. It was just a word salad. Plenty of words, but not much real meaning. Real generic. When she finished, there was this long pause. Then he asked again, with a kind of a smile on his face, sincerely. He wasn't trying to be mean. He just said, yeah, but what do you do? He was genuinely curious. That was the tone that I read from it. But she stopped, thought about it, then answered like a human being. It's almost like she needed permission to do that. She needed to get the corporate speak out of the way as sort of this mask before she could actually be someone you would connect with. She talked about who she helped, the problem she solved, why she loved her work. Suddenly there was this, like I said, connection, and the conversation actually grew from that. That moment has always stuck with me. That's years past. It's just a perfect example of how leadership gets in its own way when it comes to building relationships. Employees, especially younger ones, see corporate speak as performative and fake. And I'll be honest, all generations think of it that way. But I think the older generations, Gen X's and Boomers, are just so used to it. They're numb to it. But it causes real damage. It doesn't impress anybody. It actually damages those that use the language. And it damages the credibility of any leader that does. See, here's the thing. Corporate speak isn't about talking with people. It's about talking at people. It relies on lazy language, jargon, buzzwords, all that make communication robotic and really impersonal. People delete emails that are like this. Why? Well, first, because they assume, and usually rightly, that the sender didn't actually write that email. It was their communications team that just made this banal, benign email list of words that I guess gets the message across. But the leader just approves it and sends it out. It's automation, not humanity. And second, the reason why people delete these kind of emails is because they believe the message has no real substance. Or if it does, it's buried in some corporate speak jargon and soup that we don't want to spend the time having to sift through and find. So why do leaders use corporate jargon? Well, sometimes it's a lack of confidence. Jargon makes us feel knowledgeable and polished. It's also avoiding accountability. If we're vague, no one can pin anything on us because it's open to interpretation. And last, it mimics others. It's modeling behavior. If corporate speak is how successful leaders sound, it must be right. Right? Here's the truth. Employees hate it. It alienates them when all they really want is clear, straightforward, and real communication. Things like, let's circle back on this, or we're undergoing a strategic shift. This will be a game changer. I threw up in my mouth. As I've said before on this show, Professionalism and corporate speak can actually be barriers to connection. They strip away authenticity. They strip away relatability. Respect, on the other hand, that builds the bridges because it allows for humanity and vulnerability. Respect. That's where we should lean into. So the question I want to ask today is, how can leaders avoid corporate speak and actually build relationships with their communication? Well, first, highly recommend using plain human language. Skip the jargon. Skip the buzzwords. You know what they are. You know what they look and sound like. Speak the way you would in a normal conversation. Like a person. So swap things like, let's leverage our core competencies for, let's focus on what we do best. Right? Simple, straightforward, and honest. It's clear language that builds trust and ensures everyone understands the message. Another thing we can do is be direct and transparent. Don't sugarcoat difficult conversations. Instead of saying we're realigning our workforce, maybe say we're reducing staff due to budget cuts. It's not an easy pill to swallow, but it is honest and it is transparent, and you'll get a lot more respect when people hear that kind of language because they know we're not trying to hide behind the words we use. Employees respect leaders who don't hide behind corporate fluff. And last, encourage a culture of clear communication. Model this behavior. Set the expectation that clarity actually matters. You've heard clear is kind. This is what I'm talking about. If you hear jargon creeping into conversations, ask questions like, can you explain that in simpler terms? It's almost like you're training people to speak like human beings, or at least giving them, like I said earlier, permission to be human. This not only improves communication, but it also encourages some critical thinking and accountability too. Our teams want to connect with us as leaders, but they can't if we put up a wall, and that's what it is, a wall of corporate speak. If work relationships are a priority, and you and I both know they are, that's how we lead, then relatable, honest, straightforward, normal, human communication has to be what we do. It's about being respectful, transparent, and building that real connection that we all want. And that will do it for another mini episode of Relationships at Work, a leadership podcast helping you build workplace connection, improve culture, and avoid blind spots. I'm your host, Russel Lolacher. Thank you once again for joining me. We've got some fantastic conversations to get to next week. That's right. We're kicking off another 4-part conversation, this time with Whitney Ferris. We're going to get into understanding how we can move from adversity to opportunity. And I don't care where you work, but as a leader, you're always going to deal with some challenges. And it's about reframing and understanding that we can approach this better and maybe come out of it better on the other side. That's actual leadership. I know you and I understand that, and Whitney's got some fantastic ideas on how we can really embrace it. So I look forward to talking to you with Whitney on Monday. Take care.